Hello and welcome back, and in this video we are going to be mastering labeled content in SwiftUI 5 and iOS 17. Now some system controls such as slider and toggle, they have an associated label. Typically labels are rendered on the left hand side of the screen, or to the control, or towards the leading side, while the control itself renders on the right hand side. Now, before the introduction of label content, achieving this functionality was possible for other controls that are custom created by using the alignment guides or with the help of preference keys. Now, these approaches had their own challenges and edge cases. Label content basically simplifies the process of creating a label for any custom control or views. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the label content view with an example. So we're going to start by creating first a state variable, which will help us show and hide something, and this basically we're going to use inside our view. So we're going to create a VStack first, and this VStack is going to have a toggle, and the toggle is going to basically have this label called show email. All right, and when the toggle is on, basically it needs to bind with something, and we're going to bind it with show. Okay, so right now we have this toggle, and you can see on the leading side we have this label that is showing up. Let's add some padding here, and then you have the main toggle that is shown up on the right hand side, or on the trailing side. Okay, now let's go ahead and create our own custom view. Okay, and the way we're going to create our custom view is going to be using something called labeled content. Okay, now labeled content take many different properties, two of the main things, basically the key of the title, basically the label, and the content itself. Okay, so we're going to use the simplified version, which takes a string value, and we're going to say name is basically the label that we want to show, and then you have text, which is basically the content that we want to display, and that is going to be devtechie.com. Now notice that these two are aligned perfectly. So this one is basically the toggle, which is created by the system, and this is the custom control that we have created. Both of their labels are perfectly aligned, and I can actually show you with the line that these two are perfectly aligned, and the trailing edge for these two controls that are custom created, they are also perfectly aligned. Okay, so in order for other cases, when you're creating a control without label content, this is basically requires a lot of calculations, and you have to actually custom calculate the width and height and many different things. But label content makes this easy. Now what we can do is we can actually even put label content within an if statement, and show other values as well. So for example, we can say if show is true, then show another label content, and this label content is basically going to show the email address for devtechie. So you can basically say info@devtechie.com as the email, and you can display that on certain condition. For example, in this case, when the show is true, you have another view that is added now onto the screen. Now notice even the dynamic content that is added, it is also perfectly aligned with the rest of the views for the label and for the content. So this is what basically your label content does. Now 3 views are correctly aligned without needing of any HStack or spacer views, and all views have basically labeled aligned on the leading edge, and the content is on the trailing edge. That's very interesting without like, doing much work on our side. Now, with the help of label content, we can now add label to any view, and we can customize the label content basically with its built-in modifiers. All we got to do, like, basically start applying some of the existing modifiers that we want, that we are interested in. For example, if you want to, like, modify this label content here, we can actually say we need some padding around this. Okay, and you're gonna notice that we have some padding around this, and, like, reason the other one disappears because we have, like, show email as off. Okay, and then we can add some background around this. We can say, like, we need a background. Let's say we need a background of orange color. Let's give it a gradient, and let's also give it an opacity of 0.2, and we're gonna put this inside a rect with the corner radius as 10. Okay, so we have, like, this label content now within a background, and we can actually style the whole thing. Now notice that the view itself is still aligned, so the show start of the S is aligned to the start of this views area. Okay, so it's not indented. It's indented because this has a padding and there is a background around it, but, like, everything is still going to be aligned perfectly. Okay, now we can also change the foreground color for the label by setting the foreground color. So we can say, like, for this case, just set the foreground style. Okay, and we're going to change that into mint. So whenever we are showing the email, the label itself appears with a different color. Now, label content has another overload that takes content and label as view builder closures. Now, this provides us an opportunity to basically customize both of the components individually. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually create another label content. Okay, and notice the one that actually returns views for both. This is the one that actually takes view builder closure for both label and the content. First comes the content, so we can say text with dev techie dot foreground style. Let's give it a indigo color, and for the label, we can say learn iOS, and let's set the foreground style as mint for this one, and then we're gonna set the font for the entire thing as large title. Okay, so now you can see that both of these, the content, the label and the content, both of them are customizable, unlike, like, in the toggle view where, like, you can only customize the label and the control itself is not customizable. So basically you have, like, more control over this. Now there are, like, other overloads that you can use, so I'm going to quickly copy and paste them to show you basically the other label content variations. For example, you can have a date which actually formats the date. Okay, you can have price, which actually formats, like, just your regular formatting. For example, like, here where we are formatting this price as US dollar, and you can actually use other formatting options. For example, for the measurement, you can actually display, like, Fahrenheit or temperature or, like, distance and stuff like that. Okay, now for the further customization for the label content, it can be done using something called label content protocol. Now we will start basically creating this new protocol by creating a new struct, and let's go ahead and create this right underneath, and we're gonna create a struct, and we're gonna call this custom labeled content style. Okay, and this is going to conform to label content style protocol. It only expects us to provide make body function definition, so we need to provide this make body definition, and we can call label content, or we can create label content like that, and we can pass the configuration that we have actually received through this parameter, and then we can basically further customize. So for example, we can say foreground style, and let's set like orange dot gradient, and then like let's set the font as the large title. Okay, now once we have the style ready, we can use this style with the label content style modifier. Okay, so let's go ahead and use this with the measurement. So we're gonna say label content style, and we're gonna say custom label content style, like so. Okay, and now what you're gonna notice is we have our content style applied, and now we can reuse whatever we have defined here for rest of the labeled content. Okay, so with that, we have reached the end of this video where you learned how to use label content not only to use within your views, but also to further customize and make it reusable style option. Okay, all right, so I'll see you with this, like we've reached, and then I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you so much for watching.